Kiara, and I'm joined today by Lexi. The name of our podcast is Behind the Seams, Fast Fashion and the Clothing Industry. We will begin our discussion today with the rise and evolution of fast fashion, as well as what happens to clothes after we wear them, followed by our sustainable alternatives in a fast fashion world. Let's begin with the rise and evolution of fast fashion.
Okay, so starting off, what is fast fashion? According to an article published by UNSW, the term fast fashion refers to the reproduction of clothing that is rapidly produced by mass market retailers at low cost. Globally, the fast fashion market is estimated to be worth $1.7 trillion, more than 300 million people employed in the industry. While fast fashion offers consumers low prices and rapidly changing clothing options, it's unsustainable with severe impacts on human rights and the environment.
In another article published by SANVT titled The Meaning and History of Fast Fashion, before the Industrial Revolution and the invention of the sewing machine, fashion was slow. People made their own clothes and cared to repair them when it was necessary. Clothes were often tailored to the individual and designed to last a lifetime. Then, people slowly moved towards wearing clothes for style and not because of practical features like durability. The concept of fast fashion began with the mass production of cheap quality clothing, with the term officially being coined in 1990s by New York Times, with Zara's new accelerated production model being their inspiration, where clothes were taken rapidly from the design stage, inspired by Fashion Week, to stores for anyone to buy. I think this was a positive to come with fast fashion, making these expensive, unattainable clothes accessible to the average consumer to wear and kind of breaking down that class barrier between the rich and the poor.
Yeah, I think that is, I can definitely see the positives with that, and it is crazy to see how far like the fashion industry has come with making it so much more accessible to everyone. But I think there's also a lot of bad that brings from all of that, like mass production and like the lower quality for more quantity kind of thing. The fashion industry is actually responsible for about 10% of global carbon emissions, and I think that it is the cause of like how fast fashion has picked up so much, and how like so many clothes are just being mass produced with like really low cost but also really low quality. And then once those get thrown away, which is where they get thrown away, and then since they're made of like that lower quality material, they just like stay there and they don't biodegrade. Because they're usually made of like plastics and polystyrene and things like that. So there's definitely good, and it's good to like, it's accessibility is always like so important, but it's also like the drop in quality I think is definitely a problem, especially with how fast trends can go now. Like clothing will be made, it'll be trendy for like a couple of weeks, and then people will forget about it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it was so crazy how much effort they put into clothing back in the day. Like, yeah, it was super durable and sustainable. But like today, I don't know if I could ever imagine like keeping a shirt for like 5 years and like really making sure it's durable and like sustainable.
Yeah,
I think. And I think fast fashion as an industry has negatively like impacted the fashion industry in general, because I feel like my clothes typically like break down and tear pretty consistently, you know? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, I know it does, because I remember like, I mean, you were telling me about how like your mother has like passed down clothes to you. But it's like, I think now with how clothes are looking right now, it's like I can't pass my kids down by like $10 like, I don't even like thrift top, because it's already falling apart in my hands. So it's like, where is it gonna go in the next couple of years? You know, like it's already like disintegrating.
Because like my mom, she passed down a lot of her like jeans. But when I'm like, okay, if I ever had to think about clothes I would pass down to my kids, and I think about the jeans that I'm wearing, like they're like breaking. Like it's crazy. Really? I don't think I have any solid staple clothing that will like last the next 10 or 20 years, just because it's probably made like so cheaply and with such bad materials compared to what, like 20 years ago.
And it's nice to not have to pay like $1 billion for like good clothing, but it is also
for
just
good
like,
looking
clothing. But now it's like, we can like get good looking clothing for like really cheap, but we can't get good lasting clothing for that much because it's just like it's not possible.
Yeah.
You know, materials are like way too expensive.
Overall, clothes were more effortfully cared for before, like in the past few years, and needing them to last because we needed them to last. Overall, clothes were more effortfully cared for in the past few years, and this was because they needed them to last. But with the rise of fast fashion, that kind of fell apart in the past few years. However, there are so many other ethical concerns when it comes to fast fashion. Like you mentioned with the global like environmental impacts, I wanted to mention consumer culture, where our society now goes through so many micro trends because of social media. And to people, it might seem like it's easy, accessible clothing, but there are real consequences to the increased pace of like making so many clothes because of this culture that we've built up from social media. Something I researched was the exploitation of workers overseas specifically, where garment workers often work in unsafe and deadly conditions, and they're just treated so bad, like no breaks, $2 an hour, and this often happens overseas. So it's not as regulated as it might be in America. It could be like child, very like synonymous to slave labor, and disproportionately affects women for the worst. And it's like really sad to see when I'm like scrolling on my feed and there's like a really sad child worker making these clothes. Like,
I know. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard. It's easy to separate the product from the source, but then when you think about it, and like when you get these clothes that are like $7 for like a whole dress, it's kind of like it makes you think like, how is it possible for it to be this cheap? Because then you just connect it to like the labor must have not been very ethical for it to be so like lowly priced. It is, yeah, it's definitely like messed up. Just to know that, because it's like we benefit from it, but then like so like there's like a lot of people who completely do not, you know.
Yeah. And for workers in China, Bangladesh, and Vietnam, like overseas, and several other countries in the global south, it has exacerbated the extent of like worker exploitation. Like these workers are like dying, and it's honestly super awful to think about. Another thing that you mentioned was the environmental impact of the fast fashion industry, and I wanted to kind of touch back on that. Producing excessive amounts of clothing at cheap prices, like you said, distills this disposable culture in our world. You know, it's like they're not meant to last super long, so like we throw them away, and the amount of clothing thrown away is almost like kind of crazy, especially compared to like what we mentioned before, like when people would really tailor their clothes and repair their clothes. When my clothes break, I don't really think about like fixing them, because it's just so easy to like buy something new that might align with the trend better. And I know that's a problem.
For sure.
Did you have anything to say about the environmental impacts?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely true how it's like, I totally agree with you, what you said, where it's like, when my clothes break, I don't even think about like, oh, I just need to repair it, unless it's like $500. Okay, like $100.
Yeah.
But usually none of my clothes are that expensive. So I'm just gonna toss them away, but then like, you know, like that's just gonna go to like some landfill where it piles up and piles up in like a whole thing of clothing that is like all not gonna go away.
And something that I researched was that there's this psychological pressure on the consumers because of this overconsumption mentality, where it makes people think they like need more and more things to feel comfortable. And some might say that it feeds this kind of addiction through this instant gratification, because we're unable to really like sit with our clothes, repair them, and it makes more environmentally friendly shoppers just kind of, it feels pretty hard to do to shop environmentally friendly, you know, like
I feel like this is definitely the era of like overconsumption with like everything, and especially like out of all things, definitely clothes.
So now that we've talked about the rise and evolution of fast fashion in our world today, let's segue to what really happens to our clothes after we've used them. I wanted to ask you, Lexi, what do you do with your clothes when you're done using them?
Yeah, I buy a lot of clothes, which means I go through a lot of clothes. And when I'm like just like tired of them, or I'm just like this isn't my style anymore, I do like gather them all up and pack them in like these like huge like plastic bags. And then I'm like, the plan is to donate them for sure. I have donated a couple, but sometimes I just like, yeah, they're like I got like 3 bags in the back of my closet right now, for donation, but I haven't gotten to it yet. But yeah, usually it goes to like those like clothing drop offs or like a Goodwill, something like that.
No, yeah, me too. Like I'll sort through my clothes, typically like during spring or something like that. I'll sort through my clothes, stick the ones I don't want in a bag, and usually they're like kind of ugly. They don't really align with the with the trends nowadays. But I still stick them in those bags. Sometimes they get sent to the Philippines for my cousins. But most of the time, I just kind of stick them in that bag, either sell them or donate them. And I think one thing I wanted to touch on was the kind of Goodwill lifespan of clothes that I researched. I'm not sure you know about this, but 5% of clothes are thrown away because they're pretty gross. But the other 95% of clothes get sent to these stores, like we all know, thrifting, and Goodwill's a pretty major thrift retailer. So it gets sent to those stores, and then they get sold to consumers. And the clothes that don't get sent to those stores, the clothes that don't get sold, then get sent to Goodwill bins where they're sold for really, really cheap. And once they're done with that, they get sent overseas to be cut into rags, processed into soft fibers for filling furniture, building insulation, or made to upcycle on overseas markets. Yeah.
I mean, that is, yeah, I didn't know that at all. It's kind of like, it does kind of like change the mindset, because it's like, I feel like like at least like you think, like most people think, or like at least I think, that's like when I donate my clothes, it's like, there we go, like it's just going to like another person now, and it's like there is like one piece of clothing that's like out of the general landfill kind of thing. But then it is like, it's more complicated than that, since so many clothes, like a lot, like a very small percent of donated clothes I think are probably like resold by actual thrifts, and like you said, they're just going out to like the whole, just like wherever. And it is kind of nice to know that it's like they're being like upcycled into like rags and things like that.
But I know it's not like always.
It's not always.
Like that.
Yeah, that's like in an ideal world, everything is like put into like their own little things, and all the clothes will never be like in like waste. But that's definitely not the truth.
Especially because, like you mentioned before, clothes are plastic, like polyester. It's hard to upcycle those kinds of materials compared to like cotton, and like people don't really want to buy that, you know, especially if they're not trendy anymore. Like I wouldn't want to buy a Shein top from the thrift that's like 2020 core.
It's crazy because I do, like I go to the thrift now and I see Shein like on the racks, and it's just like, it's crazy, because it's just like, and like the racks are just like, there's just like so much that it's like that aren't even something like worth buying, to be honest, because since I get it, and like I know it was like bought originally for like $3, you know. And there's just like so many clothes out there in the world. Like nowadays, like clothing is only worn, like according to an article in like by Uniform Market, clothing is only worn 7 to 10 times before being thrown away, which is like a decline of more than 35% in just 15 years. So it's like, just imagine how all of those clothes being thrown away after such like a little amount of usage, going into all like the landfills, and like sure, like the upcycling like facilities like that, but also just like pure waste.
Yeah, it doesn't, not all of it gets recycled. Like most of it goes to the landfills.
Yeah.
We mentioned that the rate at which clothes are being produced and thrown away is so wasteful. Now I'd like to talk about some alternatives that we've been doing to kind of counteract this industry. So, being informed about what we talked about today and making conscious choices. Being informed helps make conscious choices towards living more sustainably when it comes to clothes and fast fashion. Yeah. Right?
Definitely. I mean, yeah, Me personally, I used to go on Shein like a good amount. I'm not gonna lie. Like a couple years ago, I was kind of a Shein like fiend. I would get so many things from Shein, but then I think after like hearing about like everything, like all like the wrongs with it, and also just like getting my item and it just being like so terrible quality,
Yeah.
I think I've learned a lot on how like I should switch up like my purchasing like habits, you know, because it's just like these things from Shein, for one, it's like one thing bought is like one child
Yeah.
in like
Yes.
labored, and it's like terrible to think about, honestly. So it's definitely like I have been trying to step away from that kind of like consumer kind of thing, and like
Yeah,
I
it's
definitely like I only really thrift my own clothes now, for one because I'm poor, and two just because I think it's like there's already too many clothes like being made in the world,
Yeah.
so like I might as well just like I don't mind wearing things that people have worn, you know.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
What I researched online, and like online sources really talk about what you were talking about, not buying from fast fashion, like major retailers like Shein, and switching to thrifting, which is like a good practice to do. But something else we can do, according to online sources, is research the stores that you get your clothes from and buying clothes that are environmentally friendly and not made from polyester or plastic. I don't think this is super attainable for like the average consumer. Like I know I'm super lazy when it comes to my clothes. Like
Yeah.
I'm not searching up like, okay, this is the brand. I'm not looking at the ethical things like tied to the brand, or I'm not looking at like the materials and being like, okay, this is a super cute top, but it's made of like 95% polyester. Like I don't want it. Like I'm sorry. Like I'm gonna buy that top.
No, I feel that because
Yeah.
they're all like that, you know. That's
Yeah.
the worst part. And you know, I mean, they're also like I feel like there's like other strategies. There's like you know, like, there's like upcycling and like clothing recycling programs, but it is just kind of hard because there's so many clothes in the world that it's like it's not feasible for everything to be like in a perfect world. Yeah, like I said, like in a perfect world, everything would be like all not gone to
Yeah.
the waste, but like from an article by Capital One Shopping, only 0.1% of all clothing items collected by like clothing recycling programs and charities and take back programs are recycled. So it is also like it's definitely a mindset thing as well, more than just like giving away the clothes that you
Yeah.
buy. It's like you have to think like do you want this, or
Yeah.
is it just like right in front of me
Yeah.
and cheap?
Something that I do is like I sit with, before making the purchase, I kind of sit with it and I'm like, do I really want this? And I kind of hold myself back from buying it
Yeah.
because it's like it's so easy to just like buy it online, like with
is.
Apple Pay. So I think I like detach Apple Pay. Like I don't have Apple Pay in my
Really?
phone, so I don't buy things off of TikTok
That's a good
Shop
idea.
super easily.
That's actually a really good
And it
idea.
helps me sit with my like choices and be like, do I really want this? And most of the time, I don't really buy off of TikTok Shop
Yeah.
like those super cheap clothes anymore. Like the clothes that I buy off of TikTok Shop are so poor quality.
Yeah.
And they're in the corner of my room and I literally don't wear them.
I know, yeah. I like it looks good on picture, but then in reality it's just like not great. But I think like there is a kind of thing where it's like the idea that it's like just consumers are like responsible for fixing this like huge problem and this huge like you know like environmental thing. I think it's definitely like also well it's like hugely the industry like the fashion
Yeah.
industry in itself, because like the scale of this like issue is like ginormous, and it's like kind of too large for just individual people to recycle their way
Yeah.
out of. So it's
Yeah.
just like it's a little disheartening to know that, but I think it's like we just have to, you know, we can't like shop our way to sustainability in like
Yeah.
a perfect world, but we can be more intentional and
Yeah.
do what we can, and I think that's what we're both trying to do,
Yeah.
which is like good.
I know. That's why I said I don't think it's super realistic to really like look into the clothes, not buy from
Yeah.
fast fashion, because everything is made with
I know.
child labor overseas. That's everything that's accessible to like us, like average consumers. Like obviously there's probably some $100 or probably like $200 made ethically jeans, like 100% cotton. That's super
Yeah.
cute.
Made
But
by, like
that's
a
just,
tailor who's getting like an $800 commission, like, and that's like
But it's not realistic to buy those things, and then for like things to break, like maybe I can learn it myself. Maybe that's also something we can do is learn how to fix your clothes.
True.
But that's a skill I have yet to learn. But to have someone like fix it, I'm sure is also super expensive. And yeah, I just don't think it's really realistic for people to say it's so simple to just buy ethically, buy environmentally conscious, knowing it's such a big issue that like we ourselves can't fix.
Yeah.
And it is kind of sad.
It is.
But
no,
yeah.
I mean, I think just the important part is just like doing what we can like within our means, and also just like thinking about it, you know, just like thinking
just
before
knowing,
we buy, and just like knowing the things that go behind like our purchases.
Yeah. And when it comes to like fast fashion, like I do say like I sometimes buy off of Amazon and then like when I'm done with it, like I do return it, and I know it probably goes into landfills. But I think something that I can do to fix that is to take care of my fast fashion clothes, like what we were mentioning. It's kind of hard to get away from bad quality clothes from fast fashion industries, but to really keep your clothes for longer than they were intended to like live for and wear them until they're like broken. I think that's something that we could all do towards living more sustainably.
Yeah. I think I want to like after all this, I'm definitely picking some of this up, you know, switching up some bad habits. You know, I'm taking some of my old clothes back. I'm dusting off. I'm like,
you're gonna like sew them together.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm ready for it. You know, for the environment, for the children.
Overseas.
And poor children.
One thing like I really wanted to mention before we ending this is to not jump on the bandwagon like we were mentioning. It's really easy to get influenced by social media about clothes and like recent trends and things like that. But yeah, like I said, to just sit with it and really think about what you want to buy is like super duper important.
Very, extremely.
To end this off, every small choice. To make a change in your life, it only takes one small step. You can't decide to go vegan one day and go completely cold turkey the next and expect to stick with that decision. It's not realistic, like we had talked about. Today we talked about the fast fashion industry and its issues, the clothing lifespan, and the way we as consumers have been making conscientious choices towards being more sustainable.
Every small choice, buying secondhand, reusing clothes, resisting overconsumption, or simply becoming more aware of where our clothing comes from, can create meaningful change over time.
The fast fashion industry may be massive, and it may be pretty daunting to step away from the societal pressures telling you to buy the newest and latest trends. But small steps towards conscious consumption can make lasting environmental and ethical impacts. Thank you for listening. I'm Kiara.
And I'm Lexi.
And this was Behind the Seams.
Yay! That was good.
That was good.